Welcome back. Today we're going to be answering questions on behalf of monosexuals that are being asked by a bisexual man. Yes, I'm assuming gender. Now, just before we get into that, oh, sandwich wench.
Yeah?
Food hand now. Good girl. That's Viper Sword. Please go subscribe to her.
Hello, I'm Zachary Zane.
Hello, Zachary Zane. I'm Omegon.
This is a piece called Questions for Monosexuals. I originally read it at the Bisexual Resource Center's Open by Mike Night, which was on December 1st in Boston, Massachusetts.
The motto for the Bisexual Resource Center is, "It's not a phase, it's my life." Does that not sound like every pouty teenager on the planet? I'm not trying to take a shot at the BRC. I'm really not. I just think that's amusing. Anything to help a discriminated group, I guess. Although I'm not entirely sure how bisexuals are. That said, you have 10 questions, or however many BuzzFeed-y style questions you're gonna have. Ask away, and I'm sure we'll ascertain how discriminated you are. Or how much of a little bitch you are.
Upon coming out and revealing our attraction to multiple genders,
there are only 2 genders, so when you say multiple, you actually mean 2. If you come out and tell people you are attracted to multiple genders, you are opening yourself up to a whole host of mockery.
we often feel the attack of a firing squad.
While I don't want to be too petty, are you sure you want to make the comparison of being questioned to something like a firing squad? Bear in mind here, if you're asked questions, you're not going to die from it. But if you are fired upon, you are going to die. That is the whole point of a firing squad. If you want to test this, get somebody with a pistol, take 10 paces each way, turn around, and you fire questions at that person, and they fire their gun, and see who hits the ground first.
Only, instead of being hit in rapid succession by bullets, we are hit by questions.
Luckily, we don't live in a culture of listen and believe. We live in a culture of scrutiny, questioning, answering, proof, evidence. So I don't see what the problem is. Unless your position is already weak, you should be okay to answer a few questions, just to alleviate the confusion on everyone else.
One question after the next.
There's only a finite number of questions any one person can ask on any one subject, so I'm not entirely sure what the problem is about helping people understand you. In any case, the only reason those people are asking you questions to begin with is because you've told them you're bisexual and you've gotten them curious.
A full interrogation where no topic, no query,
Yeah, you're funny.
no anything is deemed too personal. Nothing is off limits.
This early in, I can already see a flaw. The only reason you're on the receiving end of any questions is because you've told someone you're bisexual and they are curious. I've already said this. So how is it wrong that they ask you questions? Do you think simply saying you're bisexual is enough to end any further conversation?
This puts more than our sexuality on display, it puts our identity on display, too.
Unless I am very much mistaken, isn't your sexuality a very large part of your identity to begin with? Or is it one of many labels that doesn't carry much weight?
Our humanity dissolves, and what's left in its place? A mythical being. A unicorn.
Don't you dare devalue the beauty, the majesty of Scotland's national animal by associating it with you being asked questions and you feeling so damn butthurt that you think your humanity no longer exists. How on earth does your humanity dissolve away when being asked questions about an aspect of your humanity?
And yes, if I were to meet a speaking unicorn, I would be skeptical.
If I were to meet a speaking unicorn, I would probably get myself tested for LSD. But if I was to meet a non-speaking unicorn, I'd know I'd crossed the border into Scotland.
I would absolutely have a few questions for it.
It? Did somebody just refer to
A unicorn.
as it? I'm PC, bro. I'll throw down.
I mean, my upbringing told me that unicorns aren't real.
It sounds to me like someone needs to get on public transport more often. If you did, you'd see wonderful delights like this. And you said unicorns didn't exist.
That they use the label as a stepping stone before becoming full-blown horse.
Say for 1 second we follow your particular trail of logic. Would it not be the other way round? That a horse would be a stepping stone to being a unicorn? And this makes even more sense when you think, name one jockey that's going to be stupid enough to try and get on the back of a unicorn knowing that there's a spike at the front.
That because they can pass as a horse, they aren't truly a part of the the mythical being community.
Now I see where you're going with this. I think you owe Scotland an apology. Don't appropriate their culture, i.e. their national animal, to make a shitty metaphor that really doesn't compare to you. It's as bad as the firing squad comment. It's terrible.
Well, I have something to say. Bisexuals aren't unicorns. We are people. Very real people. As such, we have a voice, and one that I would like to use right now.
Oh good, we've stopped playing around. Perhaps now you can start asking the questions I'm so desperate to answer.
Since I've come out publicly, just 2 short years ago, I've been asked question after question by monosexuals, both gay and straight alike.
Well, now I understand the core problem. It's not that you've been asked questions so much as it is that you've been asked so many times the same questions over 2 years. Why not simply direct those people to a website that may have the information they need?
So now I think it's high time that I get to ask some questions to monosexuals, right? Isn't that fair? Tit for tat?
While we're not operating under the mantra of an eye for an eye, I have no problems asking you a question and you asking me one in return. You the bisexual and I the monosexual, or person acting on behalf of monosexuals.
1. What is it about liking multiple genders that scares you?
What scares me about the idea of liking multiple genders is that you think multiple genders exist, meaning that I'm the only sane person, which is scary because I'm not a very sane person.
Does it make you question your own sexuality?
No, but if you're asking me the question, it does make me question the company I keep.
Does it threaten your understanding of the world?
While my understanding of the world is limited, I can safely say no to your question.
Does it force you to realize that few things in this world actually are binaries?
Is what you are saying an attempt to try and imply that being binary is inherently wrong? Also, just because few things are binaries, even though you provided no evidence to support it, that doesn't mean we as a species should then align with the majority just because few things are binaries. It doesn't validate your argument because we are talking about the human race, not about the world.
2. Why are you so arrogant?
Without context, all I can do is guess here. Do you see a lot of monosexuals acting particularly cocky? Please tell me so I can further understand your position so I can then better answer your question.
Why can't you believe that there are sexualities out there that aren't like yours? You see, when you believe that your sexuality is the only real one, you're being egocentric. You're thinking that your experience of the world is the only one that exists.
Firstly, I'm not entirely sure how this makes people arrogant. Acknowledging there are only 2 genders, therefore a very limited number of sexualities, is kind of key. It is not arrogance, this is scientific fact. If you're about to tell me you're pansexual, I'm going to backhand you. You, however, have said you're bisexual, so I would have thought you being all-inclusive would want to say something like you're pansexual. Maybe you should fuck a unicorn.
Sure, argue solipsism, but I find it a lack of empathy. I also find it ignorant.
And I think it's fact, and that you are ignorant. Oh, you're such a smug dick.
3. Why do you equate sexual fluidity with moral fluidity?
As your questions are all quite vague, I'm going to assume you are referring to the wider populace, a large number of which are quite religious. If you want to know why a large number of people do what you have asked, faith plays a very large part in their identities, not their sexuality. Although the Bible, or whichever religious text they abide, does talk about sexuality a little. But to the rest of the population that aren't bound to faith or abide faith in such a way where the two could certainly be aligned, they're not.
We're not all confused, we're not all cheaters, we're not all liars, we're not all evil, we're not all Frank Underwoods. Our sexuality has nothing to do with our moral compass.
I agree with you. It doesn't matter what you believe. It doesn't matter who you fall in love with. It doesn't matter what you do with your life. Because anyone can do what you just said, regardless.
Monosexuals, please stop stereotyping us. Media, please please stop typecasting us.
I'll tell you what, I'll do this for you if you tell me how you typecast a bisexual person, because I'm not entirely sure how that works. Is it anything like Mr. Belding from Saved by the Bell being typecast as Mr. Belding for the rest of his career?
4. Why do you forget that we exist?
This question seems like an odd one to ask when you think earlier you were getting uppity about people asking you questions about your identity. Now, I can only surmise the reason people forget you exist is because they just don't care about who you like to sleep with. It's not a part of your identity, remember?
We are the third letter in the LGBT acronym.
Not if we're to believe Queer Kids stuff where it's LGQT for some of their videos.
We compose the majority of the LGBT community.
I don't think that makes you any more or any less important to another group.
We experience severe health disparities, issues that monosexuals do not face.
Well, this sounds serious. Please tell me what it is that bisexuals suffer from that monosexuals do not. That is a health-related issue.
Why do you use the acronym if your work does not include us?
I don't know. Maybe to bulk up the numbers? I also don't need to know about your pouty little nonsense. I want to know about the health risks.
5. Why don't you let us give blood?
Why must you ask a question that is intentionally misleading? And I say misleading because you can donate blood, but for men that have had intercourse with another man, there is a 12-month ban. Now, it could be argued that that 12-month ban should be reduced, but the reason that exists is because gay men are disproportionately affected by the HIV virus. Now, in the UK, there is actually a review going on to see if it could be reduced because screening processes have improved significantly in the 5 years since the 12-month ban was first introduced. But that particular ban still exists until the government has reviewed all the information and come to a decision that is in the people's best interests.
Not only can I not give blood, any woman I've ever had sex with can't give blood, simply because I've had sex with another man.
And like stated earlier, with screening processes improving, it makes sense to reduce the ban from 12 months down to something a bit more reasonable. Also, if it is so important for that lady to give blood, might I recommend you tell her you've had sex with a man and she would not be able to for a certain amount of time.
Don't let ignorance and hatred masquerade as facts and science. We do not live in Trump's America. Not yet. FDA, get your shit together.
That is quite possibly one of the most retarded statements I've heard in this entire video.
6. Why aren't you working with us to help decrease the health disparities that bisexuals face on a daily basis?
Ah, so you finally brought it back to the health issues. I was wondering if you were going to do that. Tell me what they are first, and I will see what I can do to help you. I, the individual, not I, on behalf of all monosexuals.
We experience higher rates of depression and anxiety than monosexuals, both gay and straight.
What really bugs me about this particular section is that you've made quite an assertion, but you've not provided any evidence to back it up. So I've had to go and Google it. And what I found first was from the APA.org, which has several studies suggest that gay men, lesbians, and bisexuals appear to have higher rates of some mental disorders compared with heterosexuals, although not to the level of a serious pathology. Discrimination may help fuel these higher rates. Now, I'm going to leave a link and you're welcome to go through this. A lot of it seems to center around gay people and lesbians, with, for example, specifically the studies find higher rates of major depression, generalized anxiety disorder, and substance use or dependence in lesbian and gay youth, higher rates of anxiety, mood, and substance use disorders, and suicidal thoughts among people aged 15 to 54 with same-sex partners. There aren't many mentions of bisexual people, so I'd love to see your particular evidence.
Bisexual women are almost twice as likely as straight women to experience domestic abuse.
That is both interesting and terrible. It is interesting because you didn't mention by which gender. It is interesting because you didn't link a study to back that up, meaning I have to go and look for it, which I'm not going to. And it is also terrible because domestic violence is never the answer.
Bisexuals are less likely to have finished high school than both gay and straight folks, and we're less likely to be out.
Okay, so I changed my mind slightly after this little statement. Linked below is the study he is talking about. It's on page 15. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail on this because I don't want this video to drag on for another 20 minutes. But I will point out the sample size is 10,000. That to me is quite small to get results that I feel are conclusive.
I could keep going and going, but there simply isn't enough time. Monosexuals, why do you ignore our cries for help?
The only cries for help I've been hearing are for Syrian refugees. Children, no less. No offense, but children take priority over yourself.
7. Why do you think that we're on teams?
Well, you do have a label, a movement, a resource center, and even a flag. But of course you don't have a team.
That if I'm dating a woman, then I'm no longer queer. That my sexuality and identity is thrusted onto me by whom I date, as opposed to who I am autonomously.
Firstly, I don't care what your identity is. You be who you want to be. I will not judge you on that. I will judge you on your actions. But what I find very interesting is earlier you talk about your identity and your sexuality. You talk about not wanting the attention, then wanting the attention, to not wanting the attention, and now not wanting it again. Can you at least stick to your convictions, please? Or if you can't find them, go get them, and then stick to them.
We are not on teams. I'm not forsaking you for another team. I love the person I happen to fall in love with. That's it.
And this is why I don't like labels. You talk about falling in love with someone. How relevant is the label of bisexuality, even heterosexuality or homosexuality, when you are in love with someone? Who cares? The only thing you should be thinking about is that person, not your identity.
8. Why do you fetishize us?
Because it's really hot to break people to your will. It's why BDSM is so popular.
Straight men, why do you fetishize bisexual women? Why do you think their sexuality is performative?
In this instance, it has a lot to do with the fact that two women together is very attractive. It's why that is the most popular type of porn.
Why do you think everything a woman does is for you and your gaze?
That's a very presumptive thing to say. I don't suppose you don't have evidence at all, so it's a completely redundant assertion.
Gay men, why do you fetishize bisexual men? Why is it considered hot to have sex with women? Why do you think I'm more masculine because of it?
Are you butthurt at the idea that a gay man might try and break you to being gay? I don't think he finds you hot because you have sex with women. I think he thinks you're hot because he wants to make it so that you only have sex with men. And if a gay man thinks you're more masculine, it's because they are a very effeminate male. And you, although quite effeminate yourself, might be more masculine than that man.
9. Why do you refuse to date us?
Has the Bisexual Resource Center correlated monosexual dating preference and personal choice, which shows discrimination against bisexual people? It seems oddly petty.
Is it ignorance? You believe false stereotypes? Are you insecure, unable to handle some of the challenges that come with dating someone who is not monosexual?
No, it's personal choice. The fact you or many bisexual people are being overlooked is irrelevant. It is entirely down to the individual's personal choice.
And lastly, 10. Why do we have to justify our sexuality when you do not?
I guess a lot of this centers around the youth, in that as younger people are starting to find out who they are, certainly when I was younger, a lot of people were telling me they were all these different labels, but as they got older, they threw away most and settled on one.
Because the more you ask and the more you question my sexuality, the more I start to question yours. I believe no one should have to justify their sexuality, and frankly, I'm tired of it. I refuse to do it anymore.
It seems very childish that to reply to people's genuine curiosity about your sexuality, you question theirs. Thank you all for listening.
Hi, I'm Omegon. If you've gotten to the end of this video and past the credits, you'll notice this little bit of audio playing. Congratulations, achievement unlocked. I just wanted to let you all know that a third of this video was sponsored by congestion, because nothing makes me articulate my arguments better than having a blocked nose.